Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some really fun battles in the Ultra League featuring my shiny Drip Lapras. Drip Lapras, or Bowtie Lapras, was released with the ongoing Water Festival, and I was lucky enough to get a good IV shiny. Since Walreign's Calm Day, Walrein has kind of become the Water-Ice type of choice, often replacing Lapras in many teams, but today, I did want to try out Lapras again to see if it still holds up versus the current meta. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Drip Lapras in action in the Ultra League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a pretty rough lead Talonflame into Kommo-o. Honestly, Kommo-o has a ton of play versus this entire team, so it's definitely not a Pokemon that I'm hoping to see. I'm going to stay in, go for the Brave Bird, but my opponent does respect it, and then I will safe switch into Kingdra. Kingdra is able to apply a ton of pressure with the Dragon Breath, but this Kommo-o is already at back-to-back Dragon Claws, so I'm going to need to double shield here. Dragon Claw would be doing a massive amount of damage. Kommo-o trying to get to a third, they cannot, and I'm able to farm down. My opponent decides to bring in Shadow Swampert here, which honestly tips me off that they might be weak to Kingdra in the back. And Kommo-o is often paired up with Talonflame, so if they happen to have their own Talonflame in the back, then I'm in a really good position because Lapras has very good play against both Swampert and Talonflame. They go for the Hydro Cannon, it was not enough to KO, and I'm able to reach another Octazooka, and what do you know, it is Talonflame in the back. And from here, things are looking great. I am going to bring in Lapras, go for the catch, I fail the catch, but this way they're forced to Brave Bird. So I should be in a pretty good spot here because after the Brave Bird, Surf is going to be more than enough to KO. Back in comes Lapras. Surf is going to be taking down the Talonflame. And then all that's left is the Shadow Swampert in the back. But Lapras is extremely tanky. Lapras does not care about your Shadow Earthquake. Watch this. Shadow Swampert going for the Earthquake. Lapras tanks it and is going to fire back with the Surf. Surf is going to be taking care of the Swampert. And that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, switching Talonflame into Cresselia. This is a pretty decent matchup for Talonflame and definitely where I want to see it on this team, so I am perfectly fine with staying in, and I'm going to go for the Flame Charge right away. Cresselia can easily tank it, so they know they do not have to shield, and the question will be, do they have Future Sight? I'm going to say they don't, but they do, and Future Sight does big damage on a Talonflame. From here, I'm going to go for the boosted Brave Bird to either do massive damage or grab a shield, and then save switch into Kingdra. Moonblast would hit for big super effective damage, so I am going to commit the shield. They do go for the Moonblast, and then they bring in Scrafty. Honestly, this is fantastic for me. Being able to bait out the Scrafty means my Lapras is not going to have to face it in the endgame. Going for the Outrage, it connects and does big damage onto Scrafty. Scrafty is going to be able to fire back with the Foul Play, but that is just not enough damage. Kingdra going for the farm down, not quite able to get it, but this should only be a power-up punch. Kingdra tanks and is able to farm down. The bulk of XL Kingdra coming in clutch. Back in comes Cresselia, and I'm able to reach an Outrage. This should KO if they let it through, which they do. What is that final Pokemon? It is Shadow Nidoqueen, and we have Lapras to absolutely destroy it. They're going straight for the Poison Fang. I do not have to shield a thing here. The incredible bulk of Lapras, taken in no problem, and we're firing back with a Surf. At this point, this game is already won. We're able to get the shield, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Talonflame into Swampert. I'm going to immediately save switch into Kingdra, and for the second time in 2 games, my opponent responds with Scrafty. This is absolute best case scenario, baiting it out so that Lapras doesn't have to see it in the endgame, and I can either get shield advantage or switch advantage. I am going straight for the Outrage, going to apply a lot of pressure if they let it through, which they do. Kingdra going for the farm down and is able to get it. The question is, does my opponent bring back in the Swampert? And they do. And here, I believe I did make a mistake. I should have committed to the Outrage because I believe I would have been able to get there, and that does quite a bit more damage. This Swampert is loaded, but I have Lapras ready to soak up this energy. They are going for the Earthquake. Lapras takes it no problem. Lapras farming up and going to be able to reach a Surf. This is big. If they want to save that energy, they have to commit a shield, which they do. Earthquake would KO here, so I am going to commit the shield. Unfortunately, they do bait me. Lapras trying to farm down, just not able to, and they reach Earthquake number 2. I do have to commit both shields, but then Lapras is able to farm down, and in the back, they have Nidoqueen, and that is a good game. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Talonflame into Sylveon. My opponent is going to immediately save switch into Snorlax. I don't have a great response to Snorlax, so I'm going to stay in with the Talonflame and go for the Brave Bird. This will either do big damage or grab a shield, and either way, then I'm perfectly fine to bring in Kingdra. In this case, I was able to get shield advantage, and this should allow me to maintain alignment. They are going to be able to reach 3 body slams before I'm able to reach the Outrage, but Kingdra is able to tank 2, and then I do have my first shield that I can use on body slam number 3. So I am going to commit the shield, and then I'm going to be firing back with the Outrage. And Outrage should just about KO here if they decide to let it through. Snorlax is quite tanky. Kingdra going for the Outrage. Do they respect it? They do not! And we're able to keep switch. I'm expecting the Charmer, but my opponent decides to bring in Walrein to get a nice energy lead. Since I have switch advantage, I'm going to be able to align my Lapras onto the Walrein. This Walrein is absolutely loaded on energy. I'm going to let it through. They do go for the Earthquake. Lapras tanks that perfectly fine. I have to watch for the catch. They try for it. They were a bit early. I'm able to bank a Skull Bash and then bring in Talonflame. Sylveon does tank a Flame Charge here. Honestly, I'm not expecting them to shield in this situation. So I am able to land that, farm it up, and they're able to reach a Psyshock. I do survive Psyshock here, so I am going to let that through, under tap, and then go for the Flame Charge. This should just about KO Sylveon. It does. Back in comes the Walrein. Walrein probably could have committed to the farm down there, but instead they opt to go for the Icicle Spear. Honestly, that is better for me. And now back in comes Lapras. We are going straight for the Skull Bash. Skull Bash does get shielded, but will, of course, buff up our defense. So honestly, an Earthquake will not KO from here, so I'm going to let it through. And my opponent baited. You absolutely love to see it. They are going to be able to reach an Earthquake. I will commit the shield just in case, and it is the Earthquake. But now I'm going to be able to go for Skull Bash number 2. This is going to raise my defense even more. Are they going to be able to reach a third? They do, but this is just not going to KO. This is a 2 stages buff Lapras. We tank the Earthquake, no problem. And we're going to be able to reach the Surf. Surf taking down the Walrein, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, sending Talonflame into Beware. Opponent running some spice, you absolutely love to see it. Talonflame is going to be able to outpace, and I'm going for the Flame Charge. Brave Bird would one-shot. Can we grab a shield? But my opponent calls it. Very nice read. This should be the payback. It would do a significant amount of damage, so I am going to commit the shield. And then, going for the farm down, I can't quite get it, and I end up catching onto Kingdra. This payback still does a decent chunk of damage, but a definite miscalculation as I thought I was going to be able to incinerate down, but they were barely able to survive. In comes Berserker, and Berserker is going to be able to take me out with a foul play. Back in comes Talonflame with loaded energy, going for the Flame Charge, and I'm able to grab a shield. Talonflame farming up quite a bit, and I make another mistake. I end up throwing on CMP, and that ends up wasting energy for me, as I definitely could have overfarmed. I've made 2 pretty significant mistakes so far in this match, which honestly may be tough to overcome. And the final Pokemon in the back is Zangoose, so my opponent is running a triple weak 2 counter team, and unfortunately, I have no counter user to take advantage of it. And in comes Lapras versus the Zangoose. I do tank a close combat from this range, so I should be able to survive no problem, but my opponent does go for the Night Slash. Here I am worried about a potential catch onto Beware. That's something I do have to be mindful of. Surf does get the shield. I'm expecting the catch. They don't catch, and they finally go for it. I'm able to farm down, going for the Surf, but I end up losing CMP. If I had not overfarmed, I could have won the match, but I tried to predict the catch, and unfortunately, I lose the match. Hopping into the next match, putting Talonflame into Giratina. This is not a great lead for me, so I will need to eventually switch out. I am going to be staying in here and going for the Brave Bird. Giratina is, of course, going to outpace. I'm perfectly fine with letting this through, and then I'm going to fire back with the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will do big damage if it lands, which it does, and then I can safely save switch into my Kingdra. Kingdra does tank a Dragon Claw here from Giratina. Giratina doesn't hit too hard, and then my opponent brings in Escav. This is not the best matchup for Kingdra, especially after I took that Dragon Claw, so I'm really not going to be able to flip switch here. But the nice thing is that I should be able to get a nice farm from Talonflame because they're not going to be able to counter me down. So they are going to be forced to throw some energy, they go for the Drill Run, and now I can bring in Talonflame to get an energy lead. This Drill Run is going to do next to nothing, so I am going to be able to let that go no problem and farm down. And now that we have baited out the counter user, hopefully Lapras will have a lot of play in the back. They go for the Dragon Claw. We tank that no problem. And it is Poison Jab Alolan Muck in the back. This can be scary because most Poison Jab Alolan Mucks are running Acid Spray, which does lower my defense by 2 stages. They throw an alignment and I'm able to sneak. This is a tough call. I shield and it's a Dark Pulse. My opponent did not go for an Acid Spray. That is an absolutely massive shield. I am going for the Surf and the Alolan Muck is going to start shielding. They're going for another move. I will respect the Dark Pulse again, but this time they do hit me with the Acid Spray, and this is not great. I'm now taking 50% more damage from these Poison Jabs. Surf, able to land. I bring in Talonflame, and the Muck is forced to throw. They did not want to get hit by a Flame Charge. Dark Pulse will take me out. Back in comes the Lapras. I wait so they can't catch, and I'm going to be able to go for the Surf. Surf is going to be taking out the Alolan Muck. Can we farm down the Giratina? Yes, we can! Big Lapras clutch, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, putting Talonflame into Walrein. This is a fairly neutral lead, so I am going to be staying in at the very least to start, and then going for the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will do big damage if it lands, which it does, and a simultaneous save switch, and the opponent concedes the match. Hopping into the final match, putting Talonflame into Scrafty, a great lead. Opponent is going to save switch into Jellicent, and I'm going to respond with Kingdra. Unfortunately, my team doesn't have a great response to Jellicent, but Kingdra at the very least has some neutral play. We are going to tank the Shadow Ball. Kingdra will be able to reach the Outrage, and I'm going to go for the Outrage on a CMP tie. I'm hoping that this is going to be enough to KO. Jellicent able to hang on very low health and get off a second Shadow Ball. Very unfortunate there, as I am forced to go down a shield. I am expecting that Scrafty to come back in and to try and go for the farm down. This time, we don't sell ourselves short, and we're able to reach the Outrage. Outrage, big damage onto the Scrafty, and I'm able to farm down. Back in comes Talonflame, and my opponent has their own Talonflame in the back. So Lapras is in a fantastic spot to close. They go for the Brave Bird. Lapras shrugs it off like it's nothing and is going to be able to reach the Surf. This will KO with the debuff. They have to shield it, but I'm going to be able to outpace, and before they reach a second move, I'm able to reach a second Surf. This does get the shield. They're farming up quite a bit, but Lapras is in a fantastic position here. I am going to be shielding this up just because I will be able to undertap the Surf, and this is going to be taking out the Talonflame. Switch clock is up. Back in comes Talonflame, and we tank whatever Scrafty throws here. Scrafty goes for the power-up punch. We reach the Flame Charge. Flame Charge is going to be more than enough to take down the Scrafty, and that is a good game. All in all, I really enjoyed getting to run Lapras again in the Open Ultra League. It's a Pokemon that I have used extensively in the past, and was a part of a team that helped me reach Battle Legend in multiple seasons. I will say for this current meta, I definitely recommend Skull Bash over Ice Beam. Back in the day, Ice Beam was the recommended move when Giratina was on almost every team, but nowadays Giratina is a lot less common and you tend to be seeing a lot more Walrein. And Skull Bash is absolutely needed to take on Walrein, as without it, Walrein just absolutely destroys Lapras. But to answer the initial question of the video, does Lapras still have play in the Open Ultra League? Honestly, I think the answer is yes. Walrein is probably still going to be the go-to ice-water type, but Lapras still has a ton of play, and with this team, I was able to have some pretty nice sets. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.